Welcome to DuPage Airport outside Chicago, and welcome to the Cessna C-172. In this video, we're going to practice flying the pattern. The plan for today is to do some pattern work. Before that, we need to get this aircraft started, prepare it for departure, obtain clearance, and then taxi to the designated runway. From there, we'll proceed to fly the pattern, performing 3 takeoffs and landings. The pattern we'll be flying today is referred to as a closed traffic pattern, and it will be from runway 20 right here at DuPage. Upon departure, we'll maintain runway heading until 500 feet above ground level. At 500 feet, we will turn to the left and start the crosswind section. From there, around half a mile from the runway, we'll turn another 90 degrees to the left onto the downwind section, and at this point we should be reaching roughly 1,000 feet above the ground. At 1,000 feet, we should reduce power and maintain around 85 or thereabouts knots. Around the midfield point, we should start our checklist. We'll be using the GUMPS checklist for this aircraft. Once we reach a beam, the numbers on the runway we intend to land on, we will reduce power to around 1700 RPM and begin lowering our flaps. We'll then trim for roughly 500 feet a minute descent. Once we're 45 degrees from the numbers, we'll start another left turn by 90 degrees onto the base segment, and now we'll lower our flaps to 20 degrees and make sure we're maintaining power for roughly 75 knots. And then we'll turn onto final, lowering our flaps to 40 degrees and setting power to maintain 65 knots. Once we've safely landed on the runway, we'll then put in full power, retract our flaps, and depart as normal and start the circuit again. Once we're in the downwind section of our third and final lap of the circuit, we will request a full stop landing. Then on the ground, we'll taxi back to the ramp, and that will complete our mission. So let's get going. First of all, we need to get our aircraft ready to start. So we'll check our fuel. The fuel selector is for both tanks, but our fuel cutoff is currently set, so we should close that to allow the fuel to run to the engine. There we go. Now moving up, we'll want our mixture mostly on rich, or as close to rich as is necessary for the weather, and we'll want to set our power to about 1 inch from the end, which is roughly there. Okay. In a real aircraft, I'd be leaning my head around and trying to lean around the yoke, but thanks to Flight Sim, we can get rid of the yoke and see what's actually happening here. So to get started, we need to give the aircraft some power, and to do that, we'll turn the battery switch to on. That tone tells us the aircraft has got battery power, and we can start to hear the gyros spin up. Now, the first thing we're actually going to want to do before anything else is to get the engine running so that we can engage the alternator and start the batteries charging. So to do that, there's a few things we need to do first. The first is we should put the beacon on and the nav lights on to warn people around us that the engine is going to start. We will then want to ensure that we have a little fuel in the engine so that when we begin to crank it, there's something to combust. So to do that, we'll turn the fuel pump on and count for 3 seconds. 1 1000, 2 1000, 3 1000. And that's all we need. In older Cessnas that weren't fuel injected, you'd use a fuel pump, and you'd probably pump like 3 times just to prime the engine ready for starting. But this Cessna has a fuel injection system, hence the fuel pump. Okay, with that, we can check that we have our mixture set correctly as it is. Our throttle is set to roughly 1 inch from the top, and so with that, we are able to start. Now, Before we do, it's usually sensible to put the parking brake on, or you need to hold your toe brakes. Either's fine, but just make sure you have your brakes set before you start the engines. And then you'll shout out the window, "Clear prop," to make sure everyone around you is aware that the propeller is about to start. Okay, with that, we will start by turning our magnetos to the start position. So slowly turn the key, and then and there we have a successful start. So I'll just let it run for a moment. Everything looks stable. Once you're happy the engine started successfully and all is well, engage the alternator, and this will allow the engine to begin recharging the battery, and we can begin to pull the throttle back so that we're roughly around 9,000 RPM. Dropping down there. You just want to listen for where it's just idling above engine stall, which is around there. We can also lean the aircraft a bit by pulling out the mixture until the engine doesn't sound happy, and then we put a bit back in. There we are, about there, and we'll just let that run. So that's a successful engine start. With that, we can now turn on our avionics for our radios. They look good. We can set up our comms. I'm going to turn off the marker because that's annoying. And we can turn on our transponder, which should turn on. I'm not sure why the transponder's not turning on. Okay. Not important, as we're not on any actual network today. Maybe I have to just type in. No, it really is a busted transponder. Okay. For some reason the transponder's not lining up. We will report that to our maintenance people after this flight. In real life, we'll be setting the transponder to 1200, which is for VFR. Check our flight controls, so pull full back and push full forward. Good free movement in our controls and rudder, so all is good there. Check around us for still clear, so we've got to watch out for the ground crew that are just hiding over here behind this window frame. But at this point, we would call the tower for clearance, and generally we'll just say, we'll actually ask ground for taxi to departure with pattern work, and we would also pick up the ATIS. As we're not flying online, there is no ATIS, but we do have the weather, and the weather is the winds at 222 at 6 knots, so we're going to be using runway 20, and that will give us a slight crosswind from the right as we're coming into land, and we need to factor that into our pattern work. But let's call in the tower, the tower for ground clearance anyway, and start getting this aircraft out towards the runway. DuPage Tower, good afternoon. This is Cessna 3 Sierra Delta. We're on the general aviation ramp looking for taxi or pattern work. Information echo on board.
Cessna 3 Sierra Delta, DuPage ground. Thank you for echo. Taxi to runway 20 right via Alpha.
Copy that, tower. Cessna 3 Sierra Delta. Taxi to runway 20 right via Alpha. So, there we are. We're ready to taxi out. So, with that, we will take our parking brake off. Check around again. Looks clear. And then add a little bit of throttle to get us out of here. Doesn't take much to get moving. And away we go. So just pull the throttle back. We don't want to go too fast. We need to keep under 15 knots on the ground. There's a fuel truck there, doesn't seem to be moving. Clear on the right. There's Alpha here, so we'll just turn. Watching out for these very large taxi lights. Okay, clear on the right. We're clear down the taxiway. And on taxiway Alpha we go. Now, as we're taxiing out to the runway, a useful trick that I used to use in pattern work is to set this heading bug to the runway heading, which is 20. And this just helps orient yourself as you're working your way around the pattern. Our speed is 15, so let's just keep the aircraft under control. Very slight movements. And you should never really use the brakes when you've got any throttle. Always remove the throttle. We're slowing down nicely. We can add a little more throttle now. And here we are approaching runway 20 right. I'm going to pull the throttle back, and then we'll bring ourselves to a halt just before the lines. Okay, this will do fine. So I'm going to hold the aircraft still with my toe brakes, and we're now going to do a run-up to test that the engine and aircraft systems are okay, and our electrical systems are fine, and there's no immediate problems that we can spot whilst on the ground. So to do this, we'll make sure that our mixture is fully rich, which is pushed all the way in. And now we'll increase our aircraft's engine RPM up to around 2,200, 2,300. There we are, increasing it. Okay, now we have power set. We'll do a quick visual inspection of our electrical systems, fuel flow, temperatures, the vacuum. All looks good. Our fuel, it looks good. Our temperatures look good, all in the green. Pressure is all in the green for oil. Vacuum's in the green. And fuel flow looks good. Everything looks fine there. So now we'll do our mag check to make sure that both magnetos are working. What we're looking for here is a drop in RPM each time that we take a magneto out. If we don't see a drop, it means that one is not working already. And in fact, the engine will stop when we find the one that is inoperative. So, let's check. distributors first. Disengage. There we miss the noticeable drop in RPM. Back to both. And let's check our right. Again, noticeable drop in RPM. And back to both. And we see the engine recover. We'll check our alternate static port as well while we're here. All looks good. Okay, now we can bring our engine back down to an idle RPM. And we can lean the engine a second. We'll set our trim for takeoff. And we are ready to go. So we'll just tell the tower. Tower Cessna 3 Sierra Delta, holding short runway 20 Rider Alpha, requesting pattern.
Cessna 3 Sierra Delta, DuPage Tower, cleared for takeoff runway 20 right, left pattern, call midfield.
Clear for takeoff 20 right, left pattern, Cessna 3 Sierra Delta. Okay, we have our clearance. We'll quickly check for approach. Looks clear. Check the runway, looks clear, and we'll move out. And with this, we'll turn our landing light on. And let's get our engine rich. And let's get out onto the runway. Landing lights are on. Aircraft is ready. Approach is clear to the left, clear to the right. Let's get up. So as we start our takeoff roll, we want to get up to around 65-70 knots, and then we'll take off, and we want to climb out at a rate of around 75 knots. Then at 500 feet AGL, we'll start our left turn. Here we go. So as we put power all the way in, keeping an eye on our coordinator. There's power set. Keep an eye on the wind as well, so we're slowly turning our ailerons to the right just to compensate. There we go. We should have enough. Okay, and we're off. Let's try and keep it steady. Okay, climbing at around 75. And there's roughly 500 feet AGL, so we'll now start our left turn. Keeping our turn coordinated. It's important to keep a visual inspection on the field. That looks good. So we'll turn out of our turn. All the time keeping ourselves coordinated. Now at this point, we want to get around half a mile, thereabouts. There's 1,000 feet. Happened early, so we'll start our turn. Into the downward section. Now we're still climbing, so I want to correct that. Let's get ourselves back down. There's the field as we start our downwind section. So pull the power back. Get ourselves stable on our downwind. a bit fast, so let's pull the power back some more. There we are at the right altitude. Getting to the right speed now. We're midfield. DuPage Tower, Cessna 3 Sierra.
Cessna 3 Sierra Delta, DuPage Tower. You are cleared for the option 20 right. Wind 222 at 6 knots.
Okay, we've got our clearance. Cleared land 20 right. Cessna 3 Sierra Delta. Should have said cleared for the option there, in fact. So, just getting a bit low. Let's get our power back in. And while we're doing that, we should do our GUMPS check. So, GUMPS is gas, undercarriage, mixture, power, and seatbelts. So, we have enough fuel. There's a gas, undercarriage is fixed, don't need to worry about that. Oh, there's the end of the field, and we're way off course here. So, this is where we put our first bit of flaps and trim for around 500 feet a minute. We are roughly 45 from the field, so let's start our turn. Keeping it coordinated. Now we're on the base section. Then another 10 degrees of flaps. Pull the speed back a bit more. And let's turn on to final. Start slowing down as well. As we turn on to final, we want to make sure we don't cross over the center line as much as possible. We're just about okay. As we enter final, let's put in our final notch of flaps. Watching our speed, we want to get around 65 knots, so put in power. Trim the aircraft a little to help us out. And we're looking good. So the thing about final is we want to use power for altitude. If we're a bit low, we have more power. If we're a bit high, take out some power. And then we use pitch for speed. So if we want to go faster, we'll just pitch down. And that will make us drop quicker, but that's where we add power. It's just that balancing act. Now as we come over the threshold, we can begin to consider bringing out power. So here we go, coming down, and now we can pull the power out. We just want to fly the runway heading all the way to the runway. So keep the runway there, keep the nose up, flying the runway, and down. Okay, flaps up, retracting flaps, and full power. Okay, 60 knots, 70 knots. Off we go. 75 knots, power set. Round we go for circuit number 2. Just trim the aircraft to help you out. Okay, there's 500 feet AGL. We'll now turn. Try and keep it coordinated as much as you can. Okay, here we are on the crosswind section. Continue the climb. Okay, approaching 1,000 feet. And we'll our downwind. We're keeping it nice and tight towards the runway. We don't want to get too far out. Keep the altitude under control. Doing a better job of that this time. Okay, we can pull the power out now. There we are, that's great. Perfect distance from the runway. Now we want to turn a little into the runway. Set our power now for around 85 knots. So slow the aircraft down.
Cessna 3 Sierra Delta, DuPage Tower, cleared for the option, 20 right.
Clip the option, Cessna 3 Sierra Delta. So we have got our clearance again. Do the comps checklist. Gas, we're fine on fuel. Undercarriage, it's down and welded. And mixture is fully rich. Prop and power is set as needed, and seat belts are still on. Okay, we're almost abeam with the numbers. There we go. So now we'll set power for 75 and give ourselves 10 degrees of flaps. And then pitch for 500 feet minute descent. There we go. Now we're waiting for 45 degrees. From the numbers, and we'll start our base turn. Oh, we're falling a bit quickly, let's pitch up. Trimming just to help me out. That's it, 45, let's start our turn. That's important on these final legs as you are approaching the runway is not to turn violently, as we do not want to stall our wing. And sudden turns at slower speeds, you're in very high risk of danger of stalling a wing, which you don't want to do when you're this close to the ground, because you don't have much time to recover. Okay, here we are, base leg, another notch of flaps. Continuing our descent, keeping an eye on speed, all looks good. Let's turn on to final. Making sure we keep the aircraft coordinated at all times. Okay, now 70 knots as we turn on to final. There's the runway. We're looking good so far. Okay, as we come out of the turn, we will now put in another notch of flaps. Aircraft will react to that. We can take out a bit of power. Keeping an eye on speed, we're on 65 knots as we approach. So a little slow, let's pitch down. There's definitely some gusts of wind that we're dealing with now. Okay, a little slow still, let's get a speed up. Okay, that's better. Come down. Just above. We can start pulling the power out now and fly the runway. There we are. Okay, retract flaps. And full power. Let's start our third leg. 60 knots. Getting blown everywhere. Climbing out runway heading. 75 knots, and there's 500 feet AGL, so we'll start our turn now. Okay, let's just give ourselves a visual reference to the field. There's the field. So we're nicely lined up on the crosswind. 500 feet ATL. Yeah, we can start our turn pretty much as we hit it. There we go. Let's pull the power now. We can stop our climb as we do our turn onto the downwind, keeping ourselves coordinated in the process. And we want to set our speed for about 85 knots on the downwind. Okay, there we go. So we turn out on our downwind section. A little bit high, so correcting for that, but speed is fine. So just trim us down a little bit.
Cessna 3 Sierra Delta, DuPage Tower. You are clear for the option. Runway 20 right.
Cessna 3 Sierra Delta, request full stop landing. 20 right.
Cessna 3 Sierra Delta, cleared for full stop landing. Runway 20 right.
Now we didn't actually need to get clearance for that because the option means that we can do a full stop landing if we wanted, but it's nice to keep the tower informed of our intentions. Okay, we're a little bit high. Gas is still fine, our undercarriage is still welded, mixture is rich, and power is set, and we actually can start our descent now. So 1 notch of flaps, down 500 feet a minute. Everything happens really quickly in the pattern, as you are probably witnessing. So just got to keep our awareness on what's happening at all times. There's about 45 degrees, so we can start our turn onto the base. Keeping us coordinated once more. Making sure our speed is around 75, a little bit fast. But that will be solved in a moment. Keep our eyes on the field. Here we are, coming into our base. Okay, we'll add an extra notch of flaps. It's really important you don't add the notches of flaps when you're turning, because again it changes the aerodynamics of the aircraft and you risk a wing stall once more. Turning on to final. A little bit high, but we can correct for that. Okay, final notch of flaps. Let's pitch. Let's trim and pitch. 165 knots on final. Bit more power. Perfect. So, aircraft looks good. We can trim the aircraft a little bit more just to help us. Speed's a little low, so a bit more power. It's just a fine balancing act between pitch and power as we approach. And we can take the power out now. We're safely over the runway. My runway, all the way down. And there we go. Slowly bring the aircraft to a stop. We'll take the second exit here. Okay. So we exit runway, we can take out our flaps, turn off our landing lights.
Cessna 3 Sierra Delta, over to ground point 9er, see ya.
1.9 now, Cessna 3 Sierra Delta, see ya. Switching over to the ground. Ground, good afternoon, Cessna 3 Sierra Delta, vacated, runway 20 right on Delta.
Cessna 3 Sierra Delta, DuPage ground, good afternoon. Taxi to signature ramp via Delta and Charlie.
To the ramp, Delta Charlie, Cessna. 3 Sierra Delta. Good day. Alright, let's take it on over. And so that is the closed traffic pattern as flown in a Cessna 172. In real life, you would be flying the pattern for many hours during your flight training. I've done probably 20 hours of flying patterns in various configurations at various airports. The more you do it, the better you get. This was a longer than planned video, but I wanted to show the procedures from cold and dark to actually flying the pattern. In the next video, we will take these skills and use them to fly between 2 airports using visual flight rules. And the skills we learnt here today will ensure that we can approach and land safely at our destination. Watching this exercise again, I noticed a few errors. For example, I made a couple of incorrect calls to air traffic control, and there were some missteps with the aircraft as we flew the pattern. But what errors did you spot? Feel free to call them out in the comments below. If you like this video, you know what to do. But until next time, stay safe and take care.